welcome to Africa Careers Network's online learning. It's great to have you with us. Before we get started, just a quick reminder to check out and download the fact sheet for this lesson. In this lesson we will look at two things. 1. We will explain what the purpose of a cover letter is. 2. We will give you some tips on writing a great cover letter that will help you stand out in the crowd. So, why should you have a cover letter? The truth is that opportunities are limited, and there is an average of around 250 applicants for every job vacancy. So, making sure your application gets noticed is essential to success. You need to use every possible method to differentiate your application. A well-written cover letter is an important tool in achieving this. Now, let's look at the correct formatting of a cover letter. Your header must contain your name and current contact information. Place it at the top of your cover letter and make sure you emphasize your name. Also include the date on which you are applying on the right-hand side of the page. Next, you need to include the name and address of the recipient of the application. Try to get the name of the actual recruiter and address the letter to him or her. This personalizes the letter and grabs the recipient's attention. Next, you should move your attention to the content of the letter. Let's look at some tips to help you structure your ideas. First, call out some of the leadership roles you have filled. Secondly, offer some stats and figures that show the positive impact you have had. Third, verify the name of the intended recipient and make sure you are addressing the letter to the right person. Fourth, give examples of where you demonstrated your strengths. Lastly, don't repeat the information in your resume, but rather give fresh facts, or expand on what you have in your resume. Once you have written the basic content, it is important to pay attention to improving it as much as possible. Now, let's look at some things to consider when reviewing what you have written. To do this, we will look at an example of a poor cover letter, and then point out some of the things you should avoid. Firstly, don't use informal language. If you want to apply for a professional role, you need to sound professional. Secondly, avoid spelling and grammar errors. Proofread a document and have others do the same. Lastly, never state what you want to get out of the job. Rather state what value you present to the company. Here is an example of a strong cover letter. Notice the decisive and professional tone in the first line. It clearly states your intention. Also take note of the facts and figures that are used as evidence for why you are a great employment prospect. Lastly, the document clearly states why you would be valuable to the company, but what if you want to add some personality? This is a great idea. When you are trying to write a cover letter that reflects who you are, keep the following in mind. Avoid cliches. Rather try to use new phrases or terms to describe your traits or achievements. Use a creative first line. The typical first line states your intention to apply for the job. That's perfectly acceptable. But if you want to, you can be more creative and illustrate your unique style. Make sure your letter matches the company culture. Ask yourself, does the company present a public image that favors structure and dependability, or creativity and innovation? Let this guide what you are writing. Lastly, make sure your content matches the industry's tone. Again, try to think of the characteristics of the industry and make sure your language and tone matches. That's it for this course. Please check out our online learning portal for more valuable courses and lessons. Until next time, keep watching, keep learning.